Dear students, good evening. Welcome to Law Excellence IAS. This is Dr. Rambabu. Let us start the discussion on today's newspaper, that is 11th December 2020. The first article for discussion is All is Now Fair in India's Ailing Pedagogic Spaces. In this article, we will try to understand the impact of COVID-19 on education and how did the governments and education system as a whole reacted to this. You know, learning losses happened during COVID-19. Reasons for learning losses are shutdown of the schools and second, lack of other effective avenues for the child to engage. In this case, a psychological disturbance also was seen in the mind of the children because child mind develops by playing and by peer comparison and also real world experience. We all know this. In this case, what is the reaction of the government? The reaction of the government is worse than the problem. They wanted to have technology quick fixes. So let us understand this way. So computers, internet, online teaching, these have become the solutions. Is this age appropriate? Is this in alignment with the educational philosophy? You need to understand age appropriate education. Children's mind develops in certain stages. Physically brain and mentally mind, they mature over a period of time. And education has to be given in accordance with this particular maturity. If you observe yourself, which you don't understand at a certain age, you get clarity as you grow old. That is what is nothing but age appropriate education. And literacy and education are not the same. In this case, this age appropriate education is being replaced by content based competitive education. Conduct them repetitive examinations, give them the content, verify the content through the exams and consolidate it. This is what is the thing which we are looking at. It is ultimately going to kill the intellectual development of the child itself. So we need to be gradual and impart the ability to think, ability to feel, ability to understand. And if you are forcibly pushing the content into his mind, it is going to do greater harm. People feel that content, routine thinking or routinization of knowledge, that is what they think. They never learn about the learning process itself. They will not ask the question why. They will always be worried about what to do. So why is important than what? So it means if you want to make a child a parrot of the content, then the present day technology quick fix is a solution. On the other hand, you want child to be original, a thinker and question why of every knowledge. That is where we need age appropriate education. The second thing is a real world experience. When you see something, when you feel something, you try to experience it and that experience becomes a memory to you. So online textbooks or digital textbooks or tab based learning, all these things are what? They are killing this real world experience. And third most thing is, internet is not a safe world. Giving a mobile and internet, parents going for job, it can also expose child to the age inappropriate content. Let us take pornography or games that can make him addictive or gambling games. All these can hurt the development of the child. My last point here is critical inquiry. It means that ability of an individual to understand a problem from the wider context. That is what we call critical inquiry. And the second is analytical skill. It means bringing correlation between various situations and understanding different problem sets from a wider principle. That is what we call analytical ability. So this critical inquiry and analytical ability, if they are developed, that is going to make the child a competent person, an original thinker. That is what the schools have to focus about. The technology quick fixes are not going to be a solution for the learning losses. Learning loss does not mean loss of learning a content. Learning loss means loss of understanding. The difference we need to understand over here. That is the essence of this article. The right political moves in Telangana. You know, Telangana was the newly formed state and it is the 29th state. Now as Jammu and Kashmir is no more the state, it will be 28th. Now in this case, this 29th state was very vibrant, jubilant public space was there. It is known as a land of mass movements. landlord movement. There are many movements over here. In this case, why this Telangana is moving towards Hindutva? How BJP is able to make its inroads into Telangana? Let us clearly analyze this. First is this public space, which has got lot of mobilization, discussion, debate, etc. It got weakened. The reasons for its weakening are there in the very attitude of the TRS itself. What is that? The political power is consolidated in a family and there is no distribution of political power. And second, opportunities, etc. These are being promised but not delivered. In this scenario, youth are disgruntled and this youth voice is curtailed by developing counter forces and using the draconian losses like Unlawful Activities Prohibition Act, etc. And third most thing important is opposition political space is being killed. And how did the opposition political space is killed? By encouraging the defections from Congress and TDP. So once some space for dialogue is decreased in a democracy, then automatically people will be looking for a new force. That new force today has become BJP. So anywhere the solution for issues of democracy is more democracy. On the other hand, if you try to consolidate the power by undermining the democracy, then it is going to cause a greater problem. That is what the TRS is facing today in Telangana. And remember another point here. TRS as a political party, it has started its origins in the movement itself, and forgetting the past is going to hurt the TRS in the long run. Next is grain and chaff. This article is about ongoing farmers' protests. The government is using certain amendments as a bargaining tool, that is for promising MSP and then strengthening of the grievance redressal to the farmers. These are all being used as a bargaining tool. Rather than government build its trust by implementing this, let it legislate an amendment making MSP compulsory, or subsidies will continue, or grievance redressal will be strengthened, or parity will be brought between private mandis and state mandis. Whatever it is saying in the negotiation, why can't it take a step as a goodwill gesture? That is the first thing. And the second thing is, don't you think food security of a country can be given out to the market forces which talk on profitability? So food security is an essential question for our sovereignty. Food sovereignty and national sovereignty go together. In this case, food security, national security go together. If we keep the food security in the hands of the market, can it be sustainable? Don't you think we can face the problems in the long term? Let us take, we have a drought over here. If the private companies start storing the grain and exporting it for a greater benefit, don't you think it creates food security to us? No country in its wisest sense have given the food security of the nation to the hands of few market forces, few private companies. That need to be understood by the government here. This is the point. Next is true to its name. The Drug Controller General of India, he did not give permission for the emergency use of two vaccines produced in India. One is by Serum Institute of India, other by Bharat Biotech. The reasons which are stated are insufficient data on efficacy and safety. If you observe, these two companies have started the phase 3 trials and these are yet to complete. But in a race to release that into the market, they appear to be compromised with this particular safety. In this case, DCGI did a right thing by sticking to its rules. Emergency use authorization, if it leads to some untoward consequences, people will lose trust and confidence on the vaccine itself. That is more dangerous to the society as a whole. So that's why the companies have to come with all reliable data and transparently shall keep that in the public domain and shall go for authorization and certification. This is what the editorial suggests. Iran's calculated risk. Let us see the positions of Saudi Arabia, which is a Sunni dominated country, Israel, a Jewish country, and US position with regard to Iran. USA sees Iran nuclear deal is dangerous, especially the democratic establishment. It sees Iran nuclear deal is dangerous. On the other hand, Saudi Arabia and Israel sees Iran itself is dangerous. That's why they don't want the Iran to rise. And on the other hand, Iran nuclear deal offers some economic benefits to the Iran. These economic benefits ultimately leads to the rise of Iran. So, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris government presidency, it is going to bring back the Iran nuclear deal. The killing of Mohsen Fakhrizad, a nuclear physicist in Iran, is to curtail this coming back of the Iran nuclear deal. Here, Israel is expected to have killed him. There are two things to understand. If Iran retaliates against the Israel, and it can become a crisis in the region. So that deviates the focus from Iran nuclear deal, and the USA may get domestic pressure not to go forward with the deal from its own citizens. On the other hand, if Iran is silent, then it can send a message to the extremists in the Iran that Iran do not have a deterrence force. In the next coming elections, if extremists come to the power, that is any person from Iran Revolutionary Guard Corps or someone comes to the power, then automatically the situation may go worse. This is the strategy played by Israel. In this context, Iran has played very safe and calculated risk. It started enrichment of its uranium to tomorrow, enrichment of uranium to 20%. In this context, if it goes to 90%, then it is a weapons grade enrichment. So, what Iran is saying that within 2 months come to table and let us close this deal. If not, I will go with my Iran nuclear program. It means Iran is focusing on the United States of America and bring back the Iran nuclear deal onto the table. Next is new parliament building will reflect India's aspirations, Modi. Prime Minister Modi, what he is trying to say here is India is an oldest democracy. If you go by 10th and 12th century inscriptions, the democracy and dialogue was spoken. It was that is Panchayat Mahasabha in Tamil Nadu, and then Basaveshwara, he spoke about Anubhava Mantapam. These all are the indications for democracy. And the new parliament building will reflect the aspirations of 21st century India. So, what are these aspirations of 21st century India? It has not been made clear in this, but he said aspirations of 21st century India. What are these aspirations? I still have a question on that. Is it having a pluralistic liberal democracy, or is it having a uniform nation with one single language? So, we do not clearly, it has not been clarified per se. Government asks farmer unions to reconsider its proposal. So, government don't want to repeal the laws, it shows it as weak. On the other side, farmers do not want to relent. Finding a golden mean is the question over here. In this case, as I discussed it to you before, government shall build the trust with the farmers first. That can be with the proactive actions which it can take on MSPs and also other issues raised by the farmers. India totally responsible for situation China. Yesterday, External Affairs Minister Mr. Jaishankar has clearly stated that China is responsible for building up its forces on the line of actual control, and it has violated all the norms of diplomacy and all the principles which have come between these two countries. Now, China retaliated and stated that India is totally responsible for this situation. This is the article. Next is lawsuits could force Facebook to sell Instagram and WhatsApp. Now, let me explain that competition is an essential thing in the market. It means without competition, it leads to monopoly of the few, or monopoly of one or oligopoly of few. So, this is dangerous for the public good. This is where antitrust laws or monopoly restriction laws have come up in the world. Now, in this scenario, what we need to do? We have to ensure greater competition. How this greater competition can come up? By breaking the big company into smaller companies. This is what USA did. When oil major, Standard Oil, was holding the control of entire oil in the USA, then antitrust laws were initiated against Rockefeller. And these antitrust laws first time came into existence, and these have broken these Rockefeller Standard Oil, if I am not wrong, into some 10 or 11 companies. So the same antitrust laws were brought against the Facebook. It means Facebook may end up dissociating itself from Instagram and WhatsApp. That's how it may happen. And thank you very much. This is Dr. Rambabu signing off for Law Excellence IAS.